Hello, everyone. This is Tim and Julie Harris. This is the Harris Real Estate University Superstar Interview. Now, if you're listening to the Superstar Interview for the first time, let me tell you what it is. It really comes down to one of three things. Number one goal is to give back to the real estate community. And as we've expanded some of the guests we've been interviewing, some of the people we featured on this weekly interview series, a lot of the guests have a lot more to contribute than just to the real estate industry, as today's guest, Tim Wood, does. So other Fridays, what we do is we specifically interview top-producing realtors, and then, of course, lots of times we'll interview somebody from a bank or an asset manager or somebody who's really going to help you specifically in your real estate business. Somebody's going to offer you targeted information. Fridays like this actually have a tendency to be the most interesting and most fun because they take you out of your comfort zone. They hopefully shift your thinking, and a lot of times the goal is to help you realize the potentiality you have with your own personal life that starts with your business life. Today's guest is somebody that Julie and I have known for a long time. He's not only a top-producing realtor, or he was, rather, someone who's one of the top realtors in the nation, but unlike most realtors, he has actually done something that, quite frankly, hardly ever happens in the real estate industry. He retired from selling homes. And when I mean retired, I mean he actually had saved up enough money that Tim Rhode was actually able to retire early and now no longer have to sell real estate. Now he's gotten into some other ventures, some other creative outlets. So without any further delay, Tim, welcome to the call.
Hey, thanks, Tim. It's great to be on here.
And sorry for calling you Tim Wood, by the way. Julie?
Yeah.
Great. So,
hey,
Tim, go ahead. I'm sorry. I can hear you fine. You're on a cell phone, right?
Yeah, I'm on a cell phone. I'm on a road trip, so I really have no choice. But Tim Wood's a great guy, too, by the way.
Yeah, well, in my mind, I have you guys connected because you're both in California and both top-producing realtors, and both, oddly enough, live up on a mountain.
Funny.
Right? Yeah, he lives in Big Bear. All right, good. So, Tim, let's talk a little bit. Let's just jump right into it, and let's share with the listeners about your real estate background. Tell them a little bit about what you did, when you did it, and the transition. And I think it's interesting, Tim, that really you started selling real estate and you had all the intentions of the normal top-producing realtor of being very successful, but you had something switch in your mind that you all of a sudden decided to do something else with your life. You decided that selling real estate for the entirety of your existence wasn't for you. So I'd like to kind of talk about really who what you were doing in terms of home sales, and then you transitioned. Let's talk about that. Okay.
Well, I sold from about 1986 to aggressively listing and selling. I basically retired in 2000. In that time, I sold about 2,500 homes. I think my best year ever was about 275 homes in the mid-90s. I was in the top 10 for Century 21 consistently every year. Went down the path of opening my own office, did that for a while, and candidly did not make a lot of money during the period, and then moved on, had somebody else take over my company. But as you said, I think the best thing I ever did was realize I don't do this forever, and changed my identity in my mind of who I was and transitioned more into, what they say, being your own best customer, buying on my own, building up my own financial passive income to where if anybody's ever played the game Cash Flow or heard of it by Kiyosaki, my passive income went above what it cost us to live, and I was able to have the option to do what I want. And I think Tim's right.
But Tim, you did this during a real estate downturn like what we're living through now. You actually you were able to build your wealth at a very similar economic time, though not as severe as we have now. But that's when you did it, during a time just like this, another real estate crisis, correct?
Well, I did a lot of it during that. I would say what I did during that time was put all the nuts and bolts in place for when things turned around. We really accelerated it. Because the last time we had a downturn was between 90 and 97. And, I was buying some rentals then, and actually I hadn't flipped any homes. I started aggressively investing right around the time the market changed last time. And that's one of the things I'm going to want to talk about today is tracking trends and how important that is to look ahead at what's coming and to use that to your advantage within your own investing and with helping your clients. So.
Why did you, Tim, you and I we've walked very similar paths. We know a lot of the same people. We've known a lot of the same, I guess it's kind of interesting how many things we have in common going back all the way to you go back to the 80s, Julie, and I go back to the early 90s in the real estate industry. The thing that interests me is how many people that you and I still know that back then said they had a goal of essentially retiring and getting out of the real estate industry, or at least not having to be dependent on selling homes for their incomes. But, Tim, honestly, on maybe one hand, I can count the number of people that were successful at doing it. Can you please help me understand why more people, even though that is their intent, don't actually make that transition?
Well, I think there's a number of things. I think the first thing is everybody's so caught up in their day in and day out. I got to close this deal. I got to make this listing. I got to make this sale, that you don't step outside of your own everyday life and kind of look at the forest through the trees. And I think that's one thing I've always been good at, is getting outside, taking the time to get outside of the daily grind and analyze what's working, what's not, what's most important, where do I want to be long term, and what do I need to shift to get there. And I think that's one thing, is stepping outside your everyday world. And the second thing is the biggest thing most people miss and underestimate is defense. One of the things I teach now a lot to the students I'm working with is offense is making money, defense is saving money, budgeting, living within your means, seeing where everything's going, setting up a retirement plan. And I think people, and especially in real estate, I remember everybody would always talk about how many homes did you sell? What was your gross closed commissions? That was the big question. And it wasn't, what's your net worth? What's your passive income? What are you doing for your own account to make sure you're not doing this forever? And I realized early on, I do not want to do this forever. And I talk to agents all the time that say, I love what I do and I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. That's great. But to me, you want to have options. And what I learned and realized early on is I want options down the road for what I do. So we consciously watched what was coming in, aggressively invested. And one thing, I don't think I ever grossed anywhere near what your top agents do. Because I was selling in Manteca, where our average sales price was like $100,000, $150,000. Yeah, I got up to $400,000, but I had pretty much quit selling by then. So I never made a ton of money. What we did real well was watched what was coming in and aggressively invested it. When I say aggressively invested it, I would find a duplex that was well undervalued and write a 60-day escrow on it or a 90-day escrow and not have the money to buy it. And it'd be like, let's say it was $120,000. I was going to need 24 plus closing costs. I was going to need 28,000. I'd say, all right, let's go. And in 90 days, I'd have to make that extra 28,000, and I'd just bust. And then maybe I made 23 of it. I'd put 5,000 on a credit card. I would pay off the credit card in the next month or two, clean everything up, get the duplex rented, and say, okay, what's next? So what you're describing,
you made the wealth building, Tim, and what you're describing is very similar to what we try to help agents focus on. And you said it right. A lot of agents Tim, they talk about their gross. They talk about how many houses they sold. And the other thing, and this is kind of a carryover from, I think, the late 90s, is they like to talk about how big their teams are. I mean, those are sort of the three topics. And then when you get into let's talk about what your actual net income is. Oh, and by the way, how much money are you saving, before taxes, after taxes? Well, the answer obviously at that point is like, I have no idea, or I'm not saving much. Or if they're really being honest, they admit the fact that a lot of times, unfortunately, they're running in the hole. The concept that you live by, Tim, and the concept that we try to help agents understand is that if your goal should be to become wealthy from selling real estate, but you don't become wealthy from the actual action of selling real estate. Chances of you selling some really big house that are going to set you up for life is about zero. You become wealthy from what you do with the money that you earn from selling real estate. And that's a concept that a lot of people don't seem to grasp nowadays, which is bewildering to me, that's for sure. Especially in this day and age when I like how you said defense versus offense. A lot of people went into this real estate slowdown and they had no defenses. And hopefully there is a shift that's happening in alignment with what you're preaching. I definitely see the importance of it. So what do you think has to happen in an agent's thinking to get them to start thinking, as you say, more defensively?
Well, it's a matter of what you focus on. And don't get me wrong, I think that an important piece is the offense, is how am I going to get that extra listing, make that extra sale, and along those lines, what are other profit centers I can put in that help me with my offense, that are associated with my everyday business? How can I have an add-on where we're bringing income into the picture? You definitely want to focus on your offense, but once again, a major piece, and Tim said it, and I see the same thing, you guys. The Keller Williams family reunion a few years ago, and I saw old friends I hadn't seen since the early 90s, and we traded, stories of what's been going on and stuff, and every single one of them still had to sell real estate, and some of them had gotten crushed by the recent downturn, and it just broke my heart, because these are people, we were, comrades back in the day, all of us selling a lot, making a lot, spending a lot, and that's okay, but the biggest piece that they miss, and Tim's right that Harris University is trying to teach you, is watch what's coming in and be investing for your future. And I hope you're writing down the words, I don't want to always be doing this. What is my plan for me to make it to where I have options down the road?
Well, they do, Tim, you said it right. When you have this convo with people in front of a big, group of agents, they'll always say, I want to be in this business until the, end, okay, whatever the end is. And the thing is that's something that is easy to say, but there's things that happen in life, and not bad things here, guys, but good things. Maybe you have a baby, maybe you expand maybe one of your spouse, your husband or wife gets transferred, and you move to an area where you don't have a well-established farm, and there's all kinds of different things that happen in life. And the fact is that you have to have the option as to whether or not you want to sell real estate. You want to have that option. And Tim, I kind of want to drill down on this just because nobody else is talking about this, and it very much frustrates Julie and I because of the exact same reason that you said, because you see these really great people that have been in the industry for a long time that have made literally millions of dollars, and they're kind of walking around. A lot of them, unfortunately, are at an age where it's going to be very difficult for them to accumulate enough savings to either to certainly retire with the same lifestyle they've come accustomed to. So, people get into the real estate industry being motivated by, it's almost always the same thing. If you talk to a new agent, they want to, earn enough money that they don't have to work for somebody else. That's the usual answer. But the other thing you hear a lot of is that they want to invest. They want to buy properties. They want to have passive income. The old Carlton Sheets videos that were on, the info commercials that were on for years and years. I can't imagine how many agents he inspired or people he inspired to become agents. So you get in the industry, you have very clear, you want to make money and you also want to invest. You want to do what Tim just said. And then what happens? You join a real estate brokerage, and all of a sudden you become a salesperson, and your focus shifts from accumulating wealth and having some level of financial independence and paying off debt and, all those types of things to being a top producer, to having a team, to doing all these other types of things. And then that message starts getting reinforced. We get calls from agents and they'll say to us things like, well, I've sold 25 houses, now it's time to build my team. And then all of a sudden they start focusing on adding buyer agents and adding team members and their systems. And again, important stuff, but then what happens? Their sales will drop down. Now, even if their sales pick back up again, the net from each transaction goes down. So we get these calls from these guys who've been selling real estate for like a decade, and they're selling 200 to 300 homes per year. and they're very proud of what they've accomplished, and they should be. And then you really ask the question, well, how much money have you accumulated? How much money are you saving off every transaction? And the answer is always really, really small. So no one's telling the whole story about this current trend, and that's really all it is, of these big teams. And here's the bottom line, guys. Criticize me if you'd like, but generally speaking, you're only going to make about 20 to 25% before taxes. And you're probably living a fairly expensive lifestyle, which means you're probably not going to save any money. So here's the thought for all of you, and I didn't mean to get in my soapbox here, but here's the thought for all of you. Shift your thinking to what Tim is saying. If your goal is indeed to build wealth, have independence, I like the idea of being defensive, so that one day you have options, but you really have to force yourself to think outside of the box. Tim, you're involved, helping you think outside of the box. You're involved in a very important mastermind group with Pat Hyben and David Osborne. How important is your Three Amigos mastermind group to you?
That was just one of the biggest things that helped me, take everything to another level. Was my involvement with Pat and David, and I strongly suggest your listeners, if they haven't already, read Think and Grow Rich, and Chapter 10 of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill talks about the value of a mastermind, and I just never realized how valuable it is to have great allies that you can run things by that help reinforce. We also invest together. We go on these ventures together, and we've just built this bond where we call ourselves the Three Amigos, and it's adventure, abundance, and accountability, and each one of us brings that piece to it. It's like a big triangle, and we've been very blessed. Tim, you've spent time around us and seen us. Number one, we love each other. We love to hang out with each other, and we're brutally honest with each other when one of us is getting away from when we're not walking the talk that we're supposed to be doing. So that's been a huge piece of helping me get to where I am, and I strongly recommend you look at who do you know in your world that can help hold you accountable, and maybe you're already doing this. Take it to another level of really push each other to hold each other accountable to what you say you want to do. And then, as I said, we've been investing together, going on adventures together, and it's just built up from there.
So if they don't have anyone around them in their immediate environment that they necessarily want to be in masterminds with, I guess one of the other things that is important with the mastermind is you're masterminding with people that are on the same path, that aren't being complacent, people that are also wanting to move forward in the same ways that you are. Otherwise, you're going to be masterminding with people who are going to kind of hold you in place or pull you back. So choosing the right mastermind partners is as important as choosing to get rid of the wrong ones. So just keep that in mind. Tim, talk to me about tracking trends. You said that earlier. I really like that point. That's a huge, huge, very important thing. Again, another under-talked about, underappreciated learning tool that agents should be taking advantage of. How did that help you to anticipate the 2005 craze at the top?
Well, let's start with I've been tracking trends since and in California there was, in 1986 we took off, and if you think of it as a graph, low point on the graph, there was a lot of inventory and prices were way down. In 1990, prices were up and there wasn't much inventory. In 1997 was when we hit our bottom. Prices were down. There was a lot of inventory. And that's when I really started taking advantage of it, and I had a little money to work with it, is right when our market started to turn in 97, I upped my buying. I only bought 2 properties from 90 to 97. From 97 to 2001, I think I bought like 15 to keep, and I flipped, let's say, 20. And then in 2000, things were really taking off. So I literally quit listing and selling. I was working 15, 20 hours a week, playing a lot, all the uns, hiking, biking, riking, skiing, diving, all the things I love to do. and I'd work like 15 hours a week, buy a house or two a month, have my team that used to follow up all my real estate. I transitioned over to my investing team. They did all the work, and I would just go play, buy a house or two a month, come back, make sure that sells, go buy something else. So I used change in the market, and while things were going up, it was just incredible to be doing that. And then I saw things changing again, and in a minute I'll talk about how I saw it and how you track that trend. But around 2000, everybody that was in the business saw it. 2002, 2003, 2004, everything's just exploding. We'd buy a flipper and expect to hold it for a month. It'd take us 2 months, and then that extra month it'd go up 30,000, 40,000. It was just insane. So I saw the froth coming off the market, and in 2005 we moved up to the mountains, up to near the Lake Tahoe area, and I sold all of my properties right into the 2005 craze, and paid cash for our house, and also exchanged our duplexes, single families, land in the path of growth for commercial triple net lease properties, apartments, strip centers, more solid what they'd call mailbox money properties. So that wasn't by accident. When I said I'll tell you in a minute what we did is we tracked the MLS. Every month we'd write down how many homes are on the market, how many new ones came on, how many sold, how many went pending, how many expired, and then every quarter we graphed it, so you could literally see the trends evolve. And I started doing this around 90, 91 because I kind of compared myself to the rest of the board on how I was listing and selling. But then in the mid to late 90s, I started using it as a tool for when is it time to buy and when is it time to sell. And Tim, I've listened to your interviews. I think we're on the same page of we're in what we're going to be in for some time, but there's micro markets all over the country, and I think that's something you guys would be really wise to do is track on your MLS all the information I just gave you, and you're going to see the trends, and you can take advantage of them before everybody else does by knowing this information.
So here's what I heard you say. Number one, you did really well because you were able to predict by just paying attention to the trends and the statistics in the MLS which direction the market was headed. Now, everyone listening, please understand the second point that Tim made is micro markets. In other words, real estate is local, and you've got to know what's going on in your individual market. Lots of markets in the country right now, guys, the rule is buy and hold, not buy and flip. In other words, buy, hold long term because you can get a great return on investment on your money. But, of course, you can also, if you know your market well enough, you can flip, and you can do quite well doing that as well. Bottom line is you got to know your market. You got to know the trends. So, Tim, I wrote down a question while you were talking. I wrote down the question, what are you anticipating happening in the real estate market? I know you still follow trends because I know you and your three amigos are still investing in real estate. Tell me what we should expect, and I won't hold you to it, over the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, if you remember Mr. T, he'd say, my prediction, pain. I hate to say it, but, if anybody's figuring this is going to turn around anytime soon, I really don't see it.
Why are people saying that, Tim? But, Tim, why are people saying that? I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that, unfortunately, from a lot of people that are real estate brokers, real estate coaches. I'm hearing a lot of people say that they think the market's going to bottom first quarter of next year or, whatever, and then we're going to have a bounce back. And I absolutely positively disagree. I'm 100% on the same page with what you're saying. There's absolutely no reason at all to believe that we're not in a cycle that's going to last another at least 5 years. Why are people telling a different story? Are they seeing something we're not?
No, I think they're just hopeful. I think they're coming from what they want for their situation or what they're trying to sell, maybe. And no disrespect to anybody in that position, but if you're realistic, if this were a baseball game, I'd say we're in the top of the third, bottom of the fourth of everything going down. And let's look. Things are cyclical. They don't change overnight, and you need impetus to make a major change. And the last trend was from 97 to 2005 was an uptrend. This trend started, depending on where your market is, I think Seattle didn't turn until like 2007, 2008, maybe some where it didn't go up that much hasn't really changed that much. So once again, there's micro markets, but as a whole, looking at it in the United States as a macro issue, there's nothing that I see that's gonna make it any better. And there's some things such as they're looking at taking away parts of the mortgage interest deduction. I've heard some talk about phasing out Fannie and Freddie and making more of a normal secondary real estate market that the investors. I don't know about you, Tim, but would you buy somebody's 30-year loan at under 5% right now?
Heck no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the thing you didn't mention, Tim, also, which is probably going to be, again, folks, agents, people listening to this call now live and replay, please pay attention to this and understand National Association of Realtors is really doing their best to try to fight against this, and the word really is fight. Tim just said it. There's going to be every reason to believe that the mortgage interest tax deduction is going to get phased out or at the very least scaled back. But that's not the real fear, I think. The real thing to worry about is this qualified residential mortgage. Again, underreported. We're talking about it on Real Estate Insider News. Not a lot of chatter about it anywhere else outside NAR. Guys, if nothing changes within 12 months, next spring, specifically April 1st, all mortgages are going to require 20% down. Read how it's written. Read what the banks are saying is going to happen. Read what NAR is saying is going to happen. So if nothing changes, please listen. We're going to have lower mortgage. The mortgage max loan amounts are getting lowered September 1st. The mortgage interest tax deduction, I suspect, is going to get scaled back sometime in the next 30 days as part of this new budget deal. And then April 1st, 2012, for those of you listening in replay, I just dated the call, you're also looking at, obviously, these 20% down rules taking place. So, Tim, here's the thing. I know it's not something that agents want to hear, right? We're talking about the headwinds, excessive inventory. We could talk about demographics. We could talk for days. But why is this, despite all of that, despite all the bad news, why is this still an incredible time to be selling real estate?
Well, it's during the downturns, during the tough times, if you're a good producer, hard worker, nose to the grindstone, in the trenches on a daily basis looking for opportunities, it is our time to shine. And I know for me and a lot of the pros in the business, during the downturns is when we make a lot of money. It's a great time to be selling, and it's a phenomenal time to be buying. And go back to what I was saying before, I'm hoping you're getting out of this, be your own best customer. And a word I don't think I brought up today is identity. And most agents think of themselves as I'm a real estate agent, and I had to flip in my mind that I'm a real estate agent / investor, and then I transitioned to Tim is now an investor, and I literally wrote out Tim is now an investor plan. I think it was 2001, and it was the switch in my identity that transferred me over to a whole new career. And I know, some of you dabble in investing, and some of you are more into investing, and I think most are selling at this point. But that's something if you notice, I keep coming back to that piece.
So you work part-time, I know, with foreclosures.com. You are somebody that coaches investors. Guys, we're not trying to sell anything. I'm just stating a fact. That's what Tim does, part of his efforts. And then he's doing something. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, actually, I quit that.
Oh, you did?
In January. Yeah. I quit working with investors, and you're literally not trying to sell anything because I don't professionally coach anymore. what I'm doing now is I've got a nonprofit I started. It's called One Life Fully Lived. If you guys could write that down and check out our website, and please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, onelifefullylived.org. And that's where most of my emphasis, I would say my career has evolved in. You know how I was talking about identity and transition. So I've had, I started out as a grocery clerk. By the way, I barely graduated high school, never went to college, so you're not talking to any rocket scientist here. I'm a pretty basic guy. Sold a lot, worked hard, sold a lot of real estate, transitioned into investing, and then I actually had a time people said, well, what do you do, Tim? I'd say I ski. I'm a professional skier, and I do a lot of backcountry, snow camping. My mom called it my walking in the woods phase, but then I coached for foreclosures.com for a while, and now I'm in a giving back phase, and I think I'll be doing this for the rest of my life.
But all this started, and I definitely want to talk about your new venture. It's very exciting. I've been on the website. It's very nicely done. I love what you're doing, giving back specifically, through a nonprofit, and there's no hidden agenda or anything like that. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But it's really important, Tim, that we really, really underline a million times in these guys' heads that you created these options to have your walking in the wood phase, to be your quote-unquote professional skier phase, now to your giving back phase, because it all started with your making the decision that I am an investor. That's something you said. I am an investor. And if you don't mind, before we switch to talking about your new venture, help me get into their heads how they can switch their mentality from I'm a paycheck salesperson, I sell today, I get paid in a month or 6 months or whatever, to I am an investor. How did you make that switch?
Well, and by the way, when we're done with this call, I can send you over. It's called Tim is Now an Investor Plan.
Do.
And yeah, I will, and I'd be happy to share that with them. It'll show. One thing I haven't talked about is the planning that goes into everything. I talk about getting out and dreaming, and one of the things for One Life Fully Lived, we talk about dream it, plan it, live it. And I've talked a lot about the dreaming. Now let's talk about the planning. I'll be happy to send over that plan and probably a few others just to show. I do like a 10-year vision plan, 5-year vision, annual business plan, monthly goals, weekly goals, and what am I going to do tomorrow? So really break down a lot of different areas of my life of what's working, what's not, what do I want to change. And I think that helps keep you young, number one, is always be growing and learning and evolving. But specifically on the real estate transition plan, I think what the best thing I did is laid out. First of all, I had a couple successes. I had flipped some homes. I saw it was going to work. I had some passive income rolling in, and I decided I really like this piece. I want to go more towards that. So in my plan, I wrote out, what's my outcome, what's my purpose. That's Tony Robbins, and then what specific action steps am I going to take? Where am I going to find money? Where am I going to find deals? Who do I know that's already doing this that can help me, that I can sit down with and mentor with? And that's how my mind works and when you see the Tim is Now an Investor Plan, you'll see each one of those is a different column of a plan of what's my outcome. I'm going to buy so many homes a year. What's my purpose? I'm sick of listing and selling. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take more time off. That was the purpose. And then where am I going to find deals? I'd lay out all the different, what's the highest and best use of my time. I used to prospect for I want to list your home. I took my 3,000 people database and said, well, now I want to buy your home. And I looked for, different sources. And you guys, with all the short sales out there, there's a lot of opportunity right under your nose. And I want to say one other thing. You guys are the experts in your market. You see the best deals. How everybody always talks, realtors, it's not fair. They see all the best deals first. Well, we do. You're right. I had an agent come into my office, and say was talking to another agent on a deal they were working on. He goes, "Oh, by the way, I just listed 6 units out on Frisbee for $350." I go, "Man, that sounds cheap. Where is it? What is it?" I drove out there and saw it, and he had underlisted it by $100,000. No, it was $250, and he'd underlisted it by $100,000. I called him back and said, $250 for this? I'm bringing you an all-cash closing 30-day offer. It'll be sitting on your desk in an hour. I bought it for $250. It was worth $350. I sold it for $640 a couple years later. You know, and that was I could go example after example. And let me give you one more example along those lines. I bought a single-family home where somebody just wanted me to take over their payments. I think they wanted $7,000 down, take over their payments because they were buying a new home. This is around 2000. I gave them $7,000. I owned the home for a year and a half. It went up about $120. I saw, and I want you to hear this term, land in the path of growth, and it had an old house on it. It was on a big commercial drive right near I-5 freeway, which runs from Mexico to Canada. And on the other side of the street was McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, stuff like that. On this side was just old, beat-up houses and stuff. I bought one of them. It sat there for like years. The sign was rusted, and I saw on the paper that they were putting a Holiday Inn next door to it, Holiday Inn Express. So I remembered that, and I went and knocked on his door, and he goes, this thing's fallen through twice. I'm so sick of realtors. And I said, well, I'm going to buy it. I don't want to list it. I'm going to buy it. You carry the financing. I'll give you $120 down on I'll pay your full price, $360. He carried the financing. I exchanged the property that I bought with $7,000 out of my own money, made $120 net, gave him the $120, paid his $360, sold it 2 years later for $1,080,000. So, and I exchanged that for a building in Knoxville, Tennessee, that brings in over $5,000 a month. So I took I call it Marion to Louise to Knoxville. I took a $7,000 and turned it into $5,000 a month. And that,
here's what I'm hearing you say, Tim. Realtors have plans to sell more houses. Realtors have plans to take more listings. Realtors have plans to, all these specific things with regards to postcards and building their team and all that. You're saying, and what I'm hearing you live by, is that you acknowledge the importance of plans and organization and all that, but you decide to take that and apply it specifically to building wealth. And here's something else, guys, I hope you're getting from this call. Many people, I would say over 90%, are only motivated to make a change when their backs are against the wall. In other words, you're overweight, you go to the doctor says if you don't lose weight, you're going to have diabetes. For the first time in your life, you're finally motivated to lose weight because of the fact that you're, moving away from pain, as they say. When I'm listening to Tim talk, he did not wait for any sort of pain to happen. He is a moving towards pleasure guy. Okay? I hope you guys are listening to how he's talking and what he did to motivate himself and keep himself focused, keep himself from getting sucked back into the typical real estate salesman mentality if your goal is indeed to have passive income, if your goal is indeed to be able to someday have options, and it might not be, and that's perfectly fine. We're not judging you. But if it is, those of you who are listening, we're speaking to you, have a plan. You heard Tim say, he decided he was going to buy a certain amount of properties, and obviously he was opportunistic and traded up in different types of properties. In the next 12 months, let's say your 12 months starts today, this very day, make a decision. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Make a decision right now that you're going to acquire X number of units being a house, right? So you're going to buy 1, 2, 10, doesn't matter. Don't limit your mind on how you're going to pay for them or where the down payment's going to come from or where you're going to buy them and how your market is not going to be able to rent and all these other rules that you set for yourself. Start with the end in mind, that being having passive income, having options, and make a decision that you're going to start buying properties today. Because, guys, here's the bottom line. Even though we're in this, real estate depression, the greater depression as it's now being called, it's still an amazing time to buy, to be a landlord, and to maybe in some cases flip. The harder it becomes for people to get financing, the more people have to rent. Here's a simple fact, and we'll use California as an example. In California, I know Tim knows this, Rents are expected to increase year over year by 10%. All the while, property values are depreciating. All the while, commercial rents in many markets are depreciating. Residential, single-family, and maybe multifamily rental rates are increasing because of the fact that people can't get financing. So that's being a little counterintuitive to the market and really taking advantage of it. So I think we've kind of, I hopefully planted some seeds. Tim, I really want to talk about this exciting thing you're doing called One Life Fully Lived. Love the concept. Love what you're doing with it. Watch some of the videos on your site. It's really kind of it's a beautiful thing. Tell us about what it is. Tell us about how we can participate.
Okay, well, first of all, I know I've been all over your site and heard your interviews and know that one of the great things about Harris University is you guys love to serve also. And I think we come from the same mindset that way, Tim. One Life Fully Lived, it's all about mentoring and educating the next generation to become self-sufficient. My dad was a teacher in my town, a small town called Portola up in Northern California. He passed last year at 90, as did one of my mentors. And when they did, it was kind of like, you know how you get one of those, what? I just had this feeling of something's missing. I need to do something different from what I'm doing. I had always talked to high school kids about some of the things we've been talking about here, of building wealth, offense and defense, what I call real life's 101s, the things they should be teaching in school. And I decided to do this, I'd like to say full-time, but I love to play too much. I don't do anything full-time. It's where I've got my investing on automatic pilot, and it's where my brain spends a majority of its time now, is building this program. And it's based on what I call the real life's 101s, and there's 6 of them. Number 1, who am I at my core? Number 2, what is my plan for me? Number 3, financial literacy, learning the basics of how money works. Number 4, offense, making money and getting ahead and having a career that brings in money. Number 5, defense. We've talked about that already. Having a budget, living within your means, providing for your retirement. And number 6, what I call EAT, efficient and effective and productive. How do you get things done? And think about that. Think about what they teach in school versus the things I just described. These are the things in my mind they should be teaching young people and people of all ages, and they don't. So what I'm trying to do is, for nothing, bring people a combination of like Tony Robbins, Dr. Fred, Harris University, foreclosures.com, all the things I've ever learned and worked for in my life where we're blessed to get good information that helps you get somewhere. I don't think young people are getting this information, so I'm trying to have a place where they can get this for nothing. And the reason I'm doing this is I don't think the world's going to get any better, and I'm kind of trying to prepare young people and people of all ages for what's coming and to have them become self-sufficient and learn how to take what they were blessed with and play their own game full out. So that's the concept. And what I'm doing is I want to build a big online community that's centered around everybody mastering their own life and helping others to get there. So that's what we got going, Tim.
Well, so tell me when you go to talk to high school kids nowadays, and I watched a video where you're talking to different people. What are the kinds of things that you talk about that you see resonating with kids? I mean, how far off the mark do you see kids thinking? I guess school more or less programs all of us to become robots, basically. We're supposed to fill a specific space. We are taught somewhat to be creative, but for the most part, we're taught to follow the rules. And it's interesting, as we move forward in life, as adults, that message gets nothing other than reinforced, right? You win by having a good credit score is what they tell you. You win by buying a house. You win by all these specific rules. And then what Tim is, I think we're both dancing around, is a lot of the social contracts that America had are changing. And the thing is there. Don't think destruction, think construction. Something new is emerging as something old is replaced. So there is a new way of thinking, a way of being, a way of existing, a way of relating to other people that is completely different than the way people used to exist. And I think, Tim, when you say learning to be self-sufficient, that really resonates with me. I'm sure it resonates with a lot of our students. Obviously, you can talk about living off the grid. I don't think that's what you're referring to. What do you mean by self-sufficient? Be specific.
Well, the first thing I want to have people learn is how to critically think, and that's one thing I don't think they do in school. Is they are just teaching to tests that have nothing to do with the real world. So the first thing I want to do is grab young people and kind of shake them and just say, if you don't, the old saying, if it is to be, it's up to me. But Tim, what I'm finding candidly, I made our program centered around, I wanted mostly 16 to 19-year-olds, around high school age. Candidly, they're not paying much attention because they've been brainwashed since they were little kids to not critically think, think of Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. I think that's a good analogy.
Well, you're dating yourself with that analogy. Analogy. Maybe a more modern one would be The Matrix. They're taking the blue pill and not the red pill.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm an older fella. So what I'm finding is the 16 to 19-year-olds are really hard to get through. The ones that are really listening are people who have been out in the, quote, real world for a while and got their butts kicked somewhat. They're going, I'm having people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s going, wow, Tim, I love what you're teaching. I need this. So that was a real interesting
Well, give me an example, Tim. Tim, give me an example. Tell me about when you're speaking to groups of people, what you're seeing to be the most impactful. I'm seeing they don't have any kind of financial plan whatsoever. No one's talked to them about offense, defense, things that we're bringing, right to their face. And a lot of people are getting in their 30s, 40s, and 50s going, holy criminy, I do not have a plan. I need a plan. And that's, when I said we're building an online community, you said it, out with the old, in with the new. What's happening is there's going to be a university bubble. Professors are still making, more money than ever. University costs more, big student debt. It's all going online, Harris University, and at a reduced cost. And ours, I'm kind of doing it backwards. All our information is free. What I'm wanting is mentors to help me, and that's where the Harris University people can come in. Is we need mentors for people, and we want to build an online mastery community based on, the levels of consciousness. There's unconscious and competent. You don't know. Conscious and competent. If you're wise, you realize, hey, I don't know. Conscious competence and unconscious competence. We're building what I call one life mastery based on those, and that's where I'm going with what we're doing with One Life Fully Lived. So we want to create an online community centered around mastering your own life while helping others to get there. And the last two pieces of our One Life Mastery program is you have to teach, you have to give back, because what better way to learn something than to teach it to others? So what I'm understanding is basically the essence of this is you're trying to wake people up to the amazing things that are truly available to them once they're conscious, once they're truly shaken out of their slumbers that a lot of us call reality. Don't mean to get all weird on you, but that's the reality of it. And when you were talking about the stages of learning, unconscious competence and all that, what a lot of people have to realize is that it's good not knowing stuff. It's good being ignorant. It's good being a little nervous because you realize the things that you thought you knew actually aren't correct. And in this phase of our evolution, maybe, what we're seeing is a lot of people are holding on to their old beliefs. They're holding on to their own ways of existing without fully realizing that moving to a new paradigm, not only will create better results for them and their families, but it's a hell of a lot easier than you think. Tim, I want to talk about how to get involved in what you're doing, but you said something, I wrote it down. I haven't heard anyone say it quite the way you did, and I'm really interested in what you have to say about this. People don't save, people don't budget, people spend, people don't think, they don't know how much money they need every single month. That is a reoccurring theme with every single person that we ever come in contact with at HREU, right? So they have no clue. But I was thinking back as you were describing that, basically, to grandparents, my grandparents, your grandparents, in many cases, our parents. I was thinking they didn't live like that. They specifically had budgets. They had savings. They had retirement plans. They didn't go into debt. They didn't have the massive student loans. Tim, when did this shift? When did we shift away from this sort of conservative, being conscious to your finances mentality and start being asleep to what we're creating for ourselves when it comes to money? When did that happen?
I don't know exactly when it happened, but I know who to blame. I blame Madison Avenue and our whole American culture, and maybe it's the whole worldwide culture to a bit, but I think we're trained. George Bush said in the early 2000s, the best thing you can do is go out and spend. And I think that's great for the economy. It's probably not great for you. And I was talking to a friend of mine. He said his parents used to wash off the aluminum foil and reuse it over and over. That's how frugal our parents' generation was. And you're right, Tim. We've gotten way away from that. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to learn the lessons of our parents. And it's if there's one thing I hope you associate with Tim Rhode when you get done with this call is the word defense and living within your means and monitoring what's coming out. And by the way, you guys, there's some great free online sites for this. Check out mint.com. has a free online budget for you. And if you one of the flips I hope you make in your life is you start looking at what's coming in my real estate business and where am I spending too much and where can I cut back and where just analyzing that whole piece of it more. And I also hope you got the step outside of your everyday business. For me, there's nothing better than hiking up a hill, elevating my heart rate. I bring a little recorder with me, and I record my thoughts, and I call it the forest through the trees. I step out of my everyday life, and this is when you find the answers to the big questions in your life.
Well, speaking of finances, you're disassociating yourself with the ego, right? That's really the heart of what causes us to stay asleep is the ego. And, okay, so that's a little bit out there for a lot of people, but think of it this way. Here's a good way for you guys to wake up to what Tim's talking about. And Julie and I had our own little epiphany and woken up to finances probably about less than 10 years ago, because we were certainly asleep like everybody else. The idea that you'd use leverage and create wealth, and why would you want to pay cash for something when you get a loan? Guys, this is all stuff that, frankly, has been taught to us by people who want us to get loans, who make money off of us when we take out loans. But we have to actually be awake to the thoughts that we're having. So a little challenge for all of you is to, before you buy anything, and does not matter what it is, a cup of coffee at Starbucks is a great example. When you walk into Starbucks and you buy a cup of coffee for $3.50 or $5, whatever it is, before you actually walk in the store, ask yourself, why am I buying this? Am I buying this because I need it, or am I buying this because I'm trying to elicit a feeling? Am I trying to make myself feel a certain way? Because the fact is that most of what we buy, like virtually everything, we buy because we were told, programmed, tricked, maybe, into thinking it's going to make us feel a certain way. You go to Starbucks, not because, the coffee is fine, but you're paying 3 to 4 times more than what a cup of coffee would cost anywhere else, because you're wanting to be part of the Starbucks community. You're wanting to have someone say hello to you. You're wanting to be, that environment is what you're paying for. So your emotions have been manipulated into thinking that cup of coffee is worth what they're charging. So stop yourself before you whip a credit card especially and ask yourself, am I buying this because I need it, or am I buying this because I want it to make me feel a certain way? Shoes, extra clothes, all kinds of stuff. And what will eventually happen, because the first time you ask yourself that question is you're going to be a little bit confronted. You're not going to feel comfortable with the answer. But eventually it's going to happen is you're going to start hearing your internal self say, no, you're buying this because you're wanting to feel a certain way. You don't need it. And that's how you become awake and conscious to some of the bad financial habits you have. So in any event, Tim, one life to live. I'm listening. I want to become involved. I love the idea of giving back to my community. I love the idea of sharing values with people that are more forward-thinking and rely more on defense than offense. Tell me specifically what I have to do to get involved with you.
Okay, first of all, onelifefullylive.org. Hopefully you can provide a link to there. And on our website, there's a place up top, Get Involved. But please go there and check out, click on Get Started and see my Real Life's 101. I talked about them before. If you check those out. If you want to help us, you can help us by giving us a donation. That'd be awesome. As I said before, all of our programs are free. We want to be giving away to our students books like Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I really want to build this up to where we're giving people the tools they need to do this. So if you donated, that'd be awesome. Also, October 1st and 2nd, there's also a link to a party we're having up in Northern California, High Sierras, up north of Lake Tahoe. It's 2 days of learning and fun. One of our guest speakers is a kid named Tyler Smith. He's with Keller Williams. He's one of the top 30 agents under 30 in the country. He's going to be talking about goal setting, budgeting. I've got another guy named Chris Lockhead who was labeled dyslexic and stupid at 17. They told him, and they kicked him out of high school. He was a millionaire by 25 and retired at 38. And I ski with him about 100 days a year. He also surfs 100 days a year, and he makes millions surfing on panel. He's a real sharp guy. He's one of our he's our keynote speaker. So day one, we're going to have a conference with probably 250, 300 people there for only $20. Everything I do is really more than reasonable. So the first day is a conference. That night we're having a party and a band. And the next day we're mountain biking, world-class rides, hiking, all these high Sierra stuff. And what I found is I learn best when there's good content and motivation, and I get out and play. So I combine the two into a 2-day, what I call Getting the Goods in the Woods celebration. So if you want to do something really cool, it's for 2 days of fun, $50. So this is not I'm not trying to get rich off it. I'm trying to fund one life. And this is something, if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about giving back and teaching people the basics of what they need. So that's how people can help, Tim. I really appreciate you having me on. Oh,
absolutely. I think it's fantastic what you're doing. It's definitely I'm sure you'll remember a few years ago, you and I were in the audience when Richard Branson was speaking, and I think this is right in alignment with what he was talking about, right? I mean, Richard Branson, who you guys probably know, Virgin Galactic, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Records, one of the wealthiest men in the world. I think he basically he saw this shift happening societally before virtually anybody else did. And I don't know about you, Tim, but that was definitely inspirational. And I hope in the same way, Tim, you're being inspirational to a lot of the folks that are listening now and in replay. So, Tim, the website again for them to get involved.
It's onelifefullylive.org, and as I said, please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And it is a really good organization, and I think we're going to be doing great lots of things. And if you are moved by what you're hearing, please come be a mentor for me. There's nothing better you could do than to give back. And I'm talking, 5 to 10 young people or older people. And what we want you to do is Maybe you're strong with your finances and you can help them with theirs. Maybe you're strong on planning. Maybe you're strong on health and fitness, because you definitely need energy to fuel your dreams. And those are the ways you can help me give back and feel good about yourself.
Beautiful. So, Tim, I can't think of any better way to end our time together today. So everyone listen, get involved with what Tim's doing. And if you can't get involved directly, at least get involved with the thinking. Attach yourself to what is coming. You know, Tim is, he's good at spotting trends. He's good at knowing what's going to happen next in the real estate market. Hopefully he's given you guys a lot of tips on how you can do the same thing, how you can be your own best expert, your own guru, as it were. But also he's giving you a real good indication of what's happening next in terms of thinking for our society. I know that sounds a little out there maybe for some of you because you guys are focused on closing your short sales, but realize, attach yourself to the new way of thinking and realize the opportunities. And guys, I really, really want to emphasize a point that Tim made really well. The bottom line is that there's never been a better time to be a realtor. There's never been a better time to make money in real estate. There's never been a better time to be buying investment properties. And there probably never will be our entire lives. We are in this market cycle, whatever you want to call it, there's no real term for it, for a long time, years. That's just a fact. Can't argue against it. So live with it, accept it, and let's be honest, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it by learning how to help other people, learning how to do short sales, learning how to list REOs, learning how to actually help people that are in distress, and then from the profits, buy real estate or maybe other things as well that are also going to be on sale, because there's going to be a lot of stuff on sale over the next 12 to 24 months that will be great long-term investments for you. It's never too early to start. If you don't have the free cash flow right now to support investing, I understand, but that's no excuse. You got to start out with the goal of buying one property a month, one quarter, one property a year. It does not matter. Start by writing down what the goal is and then focusing on it. And here's what's going to happen. It's almost creepy how much this happens, just like what I'm about to describe. You will start, I hate using this word, but it's so true, attracting to you people, thoughts, experiences, opportunities that will allow you to make that dream, that goal that you set for yourself a reality. Maybe today, hopefully today, listening to Mr. Tim Rhodes has helped you down that path yourself. So, Tim, on behalf of Julie, myself, and all the faculty and staff here at Harris Real Estate University, I want to sincerely thank you for being this week's Harris Real Estate University Superstar, and thanks everyone else for listening in. Have a great weekend.